Hello friends, we're back here on League Unlock. My name is Eric, and the off-season for OpTic Gaming, the Green Wall, did not get off to the start that you would want. Romain, the GM from the squad, already left for free agency, and there's been some rumors that OpTic don't even want to be in League of Legends anymore. After 1 year of 2 splits, they say, you know what, this is no good. We didn't have a huge fan base. We didn't make playoffs in either of the splits, so we're done. We don't think the revenue is actually there. I'm not one who's buying into that rumor. I don't think you invest in franchising and franchise your organization into an entirely new esports title and then just back out after 1 year, especially with one that's so developed and has such a huge following as League of Legends. So I expect OpTic to be back in 2019. I don't think they're backing out that quickly. There will be a whole lot of different changes, though, across not just the roster, but management involved as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new coach. Obviously, you're going to have a new GM or whatever it is that was filling Romain's role. You're going to have someone new there, and the roster itself, I expect it to be pretty different as well, because we've already heard that pretty much all the players on the squad are exploring different options, as everyone tweets and retweets right about now. But I think the main ones, and I mean the 2 best players on OpTic, were Power of Evil and Arrow. I think Dokla actually looked miles better during the second half of the split, and he was actually one of the main reasons why OpTic went on a bit of a winning streak and were just 1 game away from making playoffs. He showed he could split push, and he gave OpTic a win condition to play around, so I expect him to be back. Acadian, sometimes he looks like one of the best junglers in NA, and sometimes you wonder how he's a professional player. He's so inconsistent, but I still think he has a spot in the LCS, whether or not it's with OpTic. Another guy, his contract is up this year, so he'll be exploring other options. But I think if you're OpTic, because he's a domestic jungler, you probably still want to keep him going forward, just because of the value of having that resident jungler. But in spring, this squad was just a bit of a disaster. They played in pretty much only clown fiestas throughout. It was not pretty League of Legends to watch, and for the majority of summer, they again looked like a bottom 2 team in North America, but then midway through, around weeks 4 or 5, you see they were 3-6. They ended up finishing 9-9 with a 500 record, so they definitely looked leaps and bounds better, and again, a lot of that was because of Dokla and Power of Evil. Even when the team was struggling, he was still performing as a top mid laner in North America, and really, even though OpTic didn't go very far, I think PoE lived up to the hype. We expected him, when these rosters were released, we said, oh man, this guy's gonna have to 1v9 in a lot of these games, and give him credit, he tried his hardest in a lot of these matchups. The bot lane did look a lot better for OpTic in summer, with Big in there as support, and I mean, Acadian still looked as you kind of would have expected from him, but OpTic, when they needed to win against TSM, they got completely smashed. I think that would have been probably the second biggest upset if TSM lost that game in NA LCS history. Of course, second only to Clutch taking down TSM in those quarter-final matchups, but the bot lane, Arrow, it sounds like he is not coming back to North America in 2019. A lot of his social media activity, and he's talked about, it sounds like probably going to go back to the LCK or anywhere that's not North America. Maybe he surprises and ends up staying. If so, OpTic will probably try their best to re-sign him, because aside from Power of Evil, he was definitely their second best player in that bottom lane, and he actually worked pretty well with Big. They stood their own against most of the other bottom lanes in North America, and Big's a guy who's been on tons of different teams throughout his LCS career, and clearly his voice helped out OpTic as a whole. But I think the top in Dokla and Acadian is something you stick with if you're OpTic, because they're both from North America. But other than that, I'm expecting a very different squad heading into 2019, and there are plenty of potential moves and scenarios that could happen, as are with most of the other teams. But I think Frozen is a guy First of all, I think Power of Evil is going back to Europe because there's franchising money there. I know he likes playing in EU. He probably didn't enjoy being the villain for coming to North America, so I expect him to go back to EU. And Frozen is a guy who wants to play in a major region, and I think he's shown on Fenerbahce that he's capable of playing at least on an LCS stage, whether in EU or NA. And we know North America loves to import Korean players way more than EU, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him on an LCS squad, and OpTic's seems like a good fit, assuming PoE leaves. And then that bottom lane, like I said, it sounds like Arrow will not be returning to North America, and I actually think this is the best landing spot for Cody-san because there's no chance that 100 Thieves are maintaining him after the debacle and drama that happened there. So Cody-san, I think, OpTic is a very likely landing spot for him. And why not bring Stunt, who was on 100 Thieves Academy? He's a guy who's much better than an Academy team. He should be a starting support in the LCS. And he actually played some with Cody-san when Rikara was in that starting lineup. Cody-san did some scrims and actually played some games in the Academy League for 100 Thieves. So there's a bit of inherent synergy there. Obviously, they were living in the same team house and practicing. So Cody-san and Stunt would be an interesting bottom lane for OpTic. I don't know if that roster could compete for a playoff spot. Maybe not. But I think that's a more than serviceable squad that is a realistic thing that OpTic could put together. Cody-san on OpTic seems like a perfect spot if somewhere like Echo Fox is not picking him up. Because other than that, I'm not sure there's many other opportunities for him to start in the LCS, but time will tell for 2019. That's all the time today for League Unlocked. My name's Eric. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you next time.